If you spend much time scrolling on Instagram, you will notice the same thing over and over again. Artists who have the exact same aesthetic, the same captions, the same half dozen kind of reels, and the same approach overall to sharing their work. And when you blend in like this, you become forgettable. And trust me, when you are trying to build a profitable online business based on your creativity, forgettable is the last thing you want to be. So what if instead you designed a brand, a niche so distinctly you that you become the only person that can do what you do? Wouldn't that be better? Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So I think most of the advice out there around like choosing a niche is garbage. I think it's trash. I think a lot of people say things like pick a niche like landscape painting or pet portraits, and that's not a niche. That's not a brand. That is a subject matter. I will die on this hill. A real niche isn't just about what you make. It's also about who you are, who you serve, and how that shows up in everything that you do. So when I look at wildly successful creative businesses, I see them doing three things that help them really stand out. And when these three elements are working together, you don't just stand out, you become truly irreplaceable. If you want help putting all of this stuff in action, I'm gonna walk you through it in this video, but I've also created a free guide for you, and the link for that is in the description. Element number one is to turn your art into a world. I don't care what kind of creative work you are making. Your work has themes. I swear to God, it does. Color palettes that show up again and again, moods, concepts, consistent visual elements, or even a kind of broader philosophy. I want you to look back and think about your last dozen or so pieces of work. Picture them in your mind and ask yourself what themes keep appearing in them, what subjects, colors, moods, or concepts show up consistently, and what are you drawn to over and over again. So right now you're probably only thinking of those things when you're actually creating your work, which totally makes sense, but is also a massive missed opportunity. If your paintings feel quiet and calm, your website should feel that way too. The way you show up on camera, the music you use in your videos, the branding of your email newsletters, all of it should tie back to the work itself. If you work with bold, energetic colors, show up in a bold and energetic way. Use all caps sometimes. Let yourself use a super weird, funky font. You don't need to become a character. That's not the point of what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that you can use these elements to create a through line for your work, to create an immersive experience for your customer. When someone discovers your work, I want them to feel like they have found a whole new world, like they've stepped through the wardrobe in Narnia and like have found themselves in this fantastical new place. And there are people to meet and places to visit and concepts to explore and like new things to learn about. I want it to feel immersive. I want it to feel special and unique. And speaking of building an immersive world, one of the things that you are definitely going to need is a professional website. And that is where Squarespace comes in, who are kindly sponsoring this video. So I've been using Squarespace for years now, even before they paid me, and that's because of how easy it is to use. So earlier I mentioned that I actually created a free guide or worksheet pack for this video, and it took me literally 5 minutes to make the custom landing page for that using Squarespace. It was legit just drag and drop. No coding, no complicated setup, just a beautiful page that fits my brand. And speaking of brand, you can actually quickly transform your entire site's look to match the themes of your work like we just talked about. I actually redesign mine a couple of times a year because it is so seamless. I can change the entire color scheme with a couple clicks, swap out images, and experiment with their professionally designed templates until everything feels just right. For artists and creatives especially, having a website that showcases your work beautifully is non-negotiable. Squarespace understands this, making it easy to build galleries that do justice to your creative work, while also giving you tools to sell products, offer services, or build an email list. If you want to give it a try, go to squarespace.com/Kelsey Rodriguez and use my code Kelsey Rodriguez at checkout for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you again, and let's get back to the video. The second element of an unforgettable brand is to be unapologetically yourself. And frankly, this is where a lot of folks folks get stuck. People think that to be authentic means that you have to overshare or be super vulnerable, and that's not really what this is about. I don't overshare, at least I think I don't, and I would consider myself hopefully to be pretty authentic. Maybe you're a former school teacher, and so you're great at breaking down complex techniques, and you use that every single day in your content, in your courses on watercolor basics. Or maybe your day job is as a biology researcher, and so you have a super unique kind of philosophy and approach to nature, and that's reflected in the work that you create. Or maybe the way that you've adapted to a chronic illness or a disability has resulted in a really unique style or process. As a human being with a rich inner world and a deep personal history, there are a million things that set you apart from other people. And I don't just think those things are relevant, I think they could make your business stronger. If you are comfortable leaning into them, they could give you a massive advantage. I started this channel to really just kind of talk about oil painting and share my journey with that. And over time, I discovered that what I really loved was actually learning and talking and educating about business and marketing. And this was a huge passion of mine that I never would have realized if I hadn't tried to start my own business. And as someone that grew up low income, and I've got family that has been homeless or has gone bankrupt, I know how important these skills are. I don't think they're things that you can actually afford to be ignorant about. And I'm also someone that loves oil painting and loves videography and graphic design. And I think that that passion, those interests, those experiences enrich everything that I do. So I lean into that. I talk about that. I'm honest about that, right? And I think it makes my business stronger. I think being multi-passionate makes my business stronger. And based on all of the testimonials and the comments that I get, it seems like you guys agree. And all of that brings me to actually a really big part of this whole talk that we're having around niche and branding, which is being multi-passionate. How do you weave in all of these interests that feel so disconnected? So for the record, I don't think that you should or need to hide that you have other interests, other hobbies, other stuff going on in your life. I think it's good to share that information. But before you fold them into your business, I want you to ask yourself a question. And it's not, should I mention this? It's, does my love for this thing, does my interest for this thing make my other creative work, my main creative work, more compelling? I want you to ask yourself if it gives you a new perspective or if it helps you connect to your audience in some way. What I don't want you to do is toss the whole kitchen sink at your business and come across as really scattered. I don't think that's actually useful. Find that through line that links all of this stuff together. That is where you will find your sweet spot and your zone of genius. If you are still struggling with this, if trying to find the through line that connects your work feels impossible, I would really suggest that you download that worksheet pack that I made for you. It is literally designed by me for you for free to solve this problem. And the third element to create a truly unforgettable brand is to speak to a specific person. Creatives that have built really memorable brands are almost always creating content for a very specific person. And I think a lot of the advice out there around finding your audience online is kind of useless. Like knowing demographics, like women between 25 to 40 is like not that helpful. That doesn't tell you a whole lot of information. What does help is actually understanding their heart and soul. So in marketing terms, I want you to think less about demographics and more about psychographics. That means your customer's heart, their soul, what they care about, their deeper motivations and frustrations. Let's think about an example. Let's say that you are creating botanical illustrations. You could be speaking to someone who loves plants because they're trying to create a calm, nurturing environment in their home. Or you could be speaking to someone who is passionate about conservation and climate change and environmental justice and wants art in their home that reflects their values. Or third option, maybe someone that grew up looking at vintage nature books and spends their weekends at antique stores. Those three different audiences are completely different. They're completely different. They seem similar, they're really not. They would require different messaging, a different communication style, etc. And this is why it's kind of important to get specific, because when you understand your audience, when you understand their heart and soul, you can really make content that feels like it was tailor-made just for them. Let's quickly recap what you just learned. Number 1, you learned how to turn your art into a world by letting your themes influence everything you share. Number 2, we talked about why you should be unapologetically yourself by leaning into what makes you unique. And number 3, you learned how narrowing your ideal audience and focusing on their hearts can take your marketing to the next level. So I really believe that if you focus on those 3 things, you will build a business that will be truly irreplaceable. You will build a brand, a niche of just one person. And people are going to know you. They are going to remember you and who you are. You will be memorable to them. And that is really ultimately what I want for your business. I want you to be memorable. I think being memorable is incredibly valuable. So before you go, download that guide and then watch this video next.